What's up, everybody? And today we are reacting to Space Marine Creation / Recruitment, your guide on becoming an Astartes Warhammer 40k lore. This is by LUETIN09. I've not reacted to any of this person's stuff. However, I've been recommended these videos so many times. It's crazy. So I'm really excited to check this one out and see where it goes. Obviously, I will leave a link to LUETIN09's video down below. Please go over there, like it, subscribe, turn on notifications and all that good stuff. Very important that you do that. Link down below to his original video. Also, don't forget, I'm going to be doing a huge announcement that is literally life-changing very soon, and there's links down below if you want to keep an eye on what's going on with that. It's called Original Adventures, and I'm really excited to show you guys. I can only tell you that it's called Original Adventures, and you have no idea what it is. You have no idea what it is, and I'm extremely excited. There's a link down below. Definitely go and check that out. It's the link basically down below for the YouTube channel that it's going to be, and also the Instagram for it. So definitely go check both of them out, okay? But for now, let's shut up. Let's watch this. Space Marine Creation and Recruitment, LUETIN09. All right, let's go. Let's go. I'm excited to see this dude's videos. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. That's from the Space Marine game that I'm playing right now. From the start of the Space Marine game. Some cool artwork in 40k universe. Is it supposed to be audio? I feel like, is it supposed to be audio? Why is there no audio?
They shall be my finest warriors.
There it is.
These men who give themselves to me. Like clay I shall mould them, and in the furnace of war I shall forge them. They shall be of iron will and steely sinew. In grey armour I shall clad them, and with the mightiest weapons they shall be armed. They will be untouched by plague or disease, no sickness shall blight them. They shall have such tactics, strategies and machines that no foe will best them in battle. They are my bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are my Space Marines, and they shall know no fear.
That's cool AF. Just to start off with, that's awesome. That's really cool. Very ambiance, this video, isn't it? Very atmospheric.
Space Marines are humanity's most elite fighting force.
Are they though? Are they though? Because we've got the Inquisitors. And then they're not classed a fighting force, but they're higher up than Space Marines, right? Sorry to pause it straight away, but it's a bold claim, right? That they're the best fighting force in humanity. Are they? What about the guards, the Emperor Guards people? I don't know. I might be talking crap. I know nothing about this, so.
They're the defenders of civilization, but their immense power is forged through a harsh selection process.
Okay.
Extreme genetic and body modifications. This grueling transformation kills many recruits, and those who do survive it are left arguably barely human.
That's very Halo-esque. I'm currently reading Fall of Reach and I'm nearly finished it, and it's very similar to that, where they get genetically modified and a lot of them fail, a lot of them die or get like horrific injuries that, you know, give them disabilities, like some crazy stuff for the body modification pass. So it's very much Halo-esque with the Spartans there.
The conversion from weak mortal to demi-godlike superhuman is one gifted to only a tiny amount of humans in the 41st millennium. An Astartes, when his transformation is complete, will be stronger, tougher, mentally more powerful by factors than an ordinary human. And while a Space Marine's prime mission is to protect humanity, their physical disparity from ordinary common humans can actually leave many Astartes to look down on these lesser common humans. While
we don't get that in that Space Marines game though, do we? In the Space Marines games, he's very respectful for the Imperial Guard. Obviously, I'm sure he's not talking across the board that they're disrespectful, but I'm sure you get the odd one. There's always one Space Marine, isn't there? There's always one Space Marine who's just a bit of a turd to everyone else. Just like in high school, just like everywhere else in the world, there's always that one dude.
Others will feel a renewed sense of dedication to protect those who can barely protect themselves.
Yeah.
It's important to remember that Space Marines are the defenders of humanity and not the rulers of it. Humans, for better or worse, have been the leaders of the Imperium of Man until recently with the return of Primarch Robo Guilliman. While the transformation of a human to Space Marine is complex, you'll often hear the terminology of a gene seed be used. Now, a gene seed is not literally a seed, but it is a specific organ that each Astartes carries with seed-like qualities.
Is this the part of the Space Marines that's connected to the Emperor? Because I know that where did I hear it? It was probably in Bricky's video that every Space Marine is like modeled after the Emperor or something like that, or maybe it was the Primarchs. I know the Primarchs are like his sons, but I think across the board, right? Maybe I'm talking crap. Let me know in the comments.
It's a term used to describe generally the genetic material of an Astartes. It's more accurately the cells and DNA required to engineer a human into an Astartes. The gene seed, more specifically though, refers to the Space Marines' progenoid glands, and the clue is in the name there when you think of progeny. These organs in a Space Marine respond to the other genetic implants they have and replicate DNA.
Okay.
Essentially, they are, in a manner of speaking, an asexual form of reproduction, which is why when a Space Marine is fatally wounded on a battlefield, an apothecary will fight to recover his gene seed.
That's so interesting. So they try and recover not specifically the whole Space Marine, but that gene seed. Very interesting.
It's also why, yes, Space Marines do not require heterosexual reproduction.
Amazing.
5 years from implantation, a Space Marine's neck progeny glands can be harvested, but the chest glands won't be harvested up until 10 years.
Wow.
Space Marines essentially depend on themselves to produce new Marines for the chapter.
So it's like some sort of cloning thing, right? Is that what he's talking about? Like it's like a cloning thing where they take these cells from other Space Marines to make more of them? That's so weird, but so creative.
In this general sphere of discussion, to answer a very commonly discussed topic, are Space Marines actually castrated? And then, how do they excrete waste? Well, I can't actually recall anywhere in written law this being noted, so if anybody has a specific point of reference, please do link it. But my speculation, based on a few things that I've kind of looked at, is that pretty much the canon opinion is that Space Marines have no sexual drive. However, when it comes to excretion, it's true that their armor is also an environment suit that would cycle and process their own waste, much like a still suit in the Dune universe.
Ah, a little cross-reference to Dune there, which I love. That makes sense. If you fire in the future, obviously one of the things they had back in the day, obviously things are different now where there is women in the military, in the infantry. But back in the day, they didn't allow women in the infantry because they were worried that guys would be more concerned about the females than they would about actually doing the job, which is ridiculous. It's stupid in my opinion. And there's loads of other, I'm not going to get into that debate. There's loads of other reasons as well. But what they've done here is they've just said, far in the future, just been like, let's just cut it out completely. Let's just have no, like, sexual preference at all. There's nothing there. They're completely asexual, and they are there literally to fight. Like, their whole body, like, to a cellular level. Not just, like, someone who's a soldier who wants to fight all the time, but their body, their actual physical body to a cellular level is designed just for fighting. That is it. Just fighting, protecting, and being an absolute badass. That's really cool how they've really like pushed the emphasis to show how badass they are, that it's like they've gone so far that they don't care about anything else. They don't care about, figuring out all the waste because the suit figures it out. They don't care about reproduction because that's less time on the battlefield. You know what I mean? Like, that's absolutely badass.
Also, Space Marines do not live in their armor, although they may wear it for extended periods of time. It can be removed. It's entirely possible that their external genitals are removed and they have implants to take care of waste, but I've got nothing to see that it points towards this. So it's an unknown, but it's not something that's critically really important in the scheme of things. It's equally possible that it's just seen as an organ as with everything else and they just leave it all be.
Okay, I know I'm pausing it a lot, but I have something to comment on that. If these Space Marines to a cellular level are designed to fight and defend, then I think it would make sense for him to castrate them, because even though, like, you're perfectly capable of fighting, like, obviously, dudes are capable of fighting, but it is an organ outside of the body. So it's a weakness. Like, if a dude get kicks in the nuts, it hurts. You're going to go down. And these dudes to a cellular level are designed to fight. So it would make sense that they don't have any, right? Am I stupid by saying that? It's in the future, guys. This isn't something that, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't modern times. It's in the future, and they're literally designed to a cellular level to fight. So why would they have them? Why? It makes no sense. Oh, wrong button. There we go. All right, here we go. The history.
Now, before we look further into how a Space Marine is forged in the 41st millennium, let's remind ourselves how they were created over history. Now, the first form of Space Marine was originally created by the Emperor during the unification wars of the late 30th millennium.
Okay.
Earth at this time was a barren wasteland of scavengers and barbaric warring tribes after civilization had imploded as a result of the Age of Strife.
I've got one thing to say on that. 1 second. Let me get it. Where are you, little bugger? Obviously I don't know much about Warhammer, but I'm looking at, because I got like a starter set for both 40k and Age of Sigmar, right? If the Space Marines were created specifically from the Emperor, was the Emperor around during the Age of Sigmar? Because these dudes, you can see that on the camera, these dudes, which I haven't painted him yet, are very Space Marine-esque, right? They're very Space Marine-esque. So where's that correlation? Let me know in the comments.
Earth, being cut off from its supply routes in the warp, cannibalized itself and fell into total anarchy. After the Emperor originally created techno-barbarians, a crude adapted form of super soldier, he would form them later into the Thunder Warriors. These warriors were brutal, powerful, and most importantly, highly unstable. The Emperor knew that he wouldn't be able to work with these soldiers forged in the fires of anarchy beyond the unification of Earth's warring tribes, and so he secretly constructed his genetic facilities in a fortress deep below vast mountain ranges on Earth. Here, he would, with some few remaining gene rights, create his Primarchs using his own genetic material as a template.
So the Primarchs are there's like 10 of them, right? You know, you got basically the leaders of all the different factions. So the leader of like Blood Angels, the Space Wolves, and all that lot. And Horus is one of them. And obviously some of them splinter off to go Chaos and stuff. But basically they are genetically kind of like a cross between a clone and a son of the Emperor. So are the rest of the Space Marines like that as well? Or is it just the Primarchs?
Then subsequently, the very first of the new breed of warriors, the Space Marines, or Astartes.
Yeah.
But what are the Thunder Warriors? Imperial records state that the Thunder Warriors were nearly all wiped out during a particularly bloody battle at the end of the Unification Wars on Mount Ararat. Conveniently, the new Legiones Astartes were created readily to replace them. Now, records from this time are understandably fragmented, but described eyewitness accounts from the few Thunder Warriors to survive this battle, like Eric Turnus, stated that it was in fact the Emperor himself who massacred the Thunder Warriors. Others have stated that it was also in collaboration with his custodian guard.
Why would he do that?
In several instances that occurred since this time where Thunder Warriors have appeared and faced their Astartes brothers, the Thunder Warriors have nearly always managed to inflict casualties beyond expectation before they are finally felled.
Why is he showing this picture? Are these supposed to be a representation of the Thunder Warriors? Because I'm very intrigued. I'd like them... Obviously, I'm only just dipping my toes into Warhammer and there's so much to explore. But it'd be really cool if they did some figures from before, like when the Emperor was around. And have they done that? Have they done figures of like these Thunder Warriors and like the Emperor and all that lot? Have they done them figures? Because that intrigues me a lot.
This gives some indication of how powerful they were as warriors, and why the Emperor felt they were perhaps too dangerous, given their power and psychological instability, to function as a disciplined fighting and defensive force for the new Imperium. Regardless, this whole situation is a dark and little spoken of episode for the Emperor of Man. Vocalizing these events would no doubt have some Inquisition or ecclesiarchy on their way to you very promptly. With the Thunder Warriors killed in the Battle of Mount Ararat, the new Space Marines, the Legiones Astartes, would come to the fore. Unlike their Thunder Warrior forebears, they would undergo rigorous mental training as well as physical and genetic modifications. This would give them immense physical traits as well as being near unbreakable with their mental conditioning.
So he might get into this, I'm not sure, but my interest is also between the factions. So you got like the Space Wolves, the Grey Knights, the Blood Angels, and all the other ones, the Yellow Dudes, and all that lot, right? Do you become a Space Marine first, and then you pick a faction, or does a faction call you, or does each faction breed their own Space Marines, Astartes? Like, how do you get divided into these different factions? I'm interested in that.
The new Marines were initially segregated into 20 legions. This separation was not for simple organizational purposes. Each legion was imbued with genetic traits from their Primarch, and as such, this impacted their character and behavior.
Okay.
To ensure unity, the Emperor designated them to stay together in their legions to reduce friction and ensure cohesion of the Astartes brothers.
Interesting.
Through recruiting and conquest of human colonies, as the Imperium expanded, so did the Astartes legions. What had begun as a handful of Marines swelled to tens of thousands during the Crusades.
That's really
This
cool.
would lead later to heavy damage caused during the heresy after the Primarchs holding such immense power, being the sole commanders of each Space Marine legion.
Yeah.
After that period of chaotic incursion, Roboute Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, would draft the Codex Astartes, and the remaining loyalist Primarchs would, after much consideration, agree at best that the Space Marine legions be split into chapters.
Is that what my dude was referencing in the Space Marine game? Like when he was saying you shouldn't jump from orbit into a battlefield or something like that, he's saying it's not in the Codex. Is that the book he's talking about?
This was to ensure no Space Marine Legion could wield the sheer weight of power they had during the Crusades and subsequent heresy. This was known as the Second Founding. Each of these chapters would take a permanent homeworld or fortress monastery in the Imperium.
Okay.
The Codex Astartes states that each chapter would be 1,000 battle brothers in number and manage its own recruitment. A specific development in the creation of a Space Marine was discovered after the Horus Heresy: weaknesses in the gene seed. As I previously explained, the gene seed is the core biological component in the creation of a Space Marine.
So each chapter is responsible for their own recruitment. That's interesting, in my opinion. And it makes me wonder if each faction have a preference on a certain person from a certain area, or like, this is why I want to dive deep into people like the Space Wolves, because I want to know what their process is specifically on recruitment and stuff like that. I think that's super interesting. Like the journey to become a Space Marine, I think is as interesting as anything else in this lore. It's just something that I think is really cool.
During the Heresy, Space Marines were created on a massive scale, and as with any biological replication process, if you do this on a large scale, then mutations and errors can occur in this DNA replication. So another result of the implementation of the Codex Astartes by Guilliman was to slow the process of creating a Space Marine, to more closely monitor their genetic material and the material implanted within new recruits to ensure purity and expunge defects. Guilliman would also establish core genetic banks on Terra to ensure a stock of genetics existed. These pure sources would provide new material for the foundings of Astartes chapters and also prevent any further contamination.
That's really cool. Okay, recruitment, here we go.
As
There's a whole bit
previously
on
described,
recruitment.
each chapter is responsible for its own replenishment. It chooses where and how to locate potential Space Marine candidates. Many will recruit solely from their own homeworld, but others will reach out to hive worlds of the Imperium to locate powerful and resilient fighters who have shown promise and an unnatural ability in combat, even potentially recruiting from gang fighters in hive cities. Feral planets can also be good for selection, as the humans here are physically tough and have to deal with daily hardships more frequently than some other Imperial planets. Surprisingly, less recruits actually appear from the militaristic worlds like fortress planets, maybe because although knowing lives of military discipline, they haven't endured the true horror and hardships that come from the rougher ends of Imperial life. Any candidate for a Space Marine will be usually young, between the ages of 10 and 15 years old. Obviously needing to be strong, healthy, and fiercely loyal to the Imperium. Often on worlds where recruitment occurs, young male humans who show exceptional skill or strength are pushed hard to give them the best chance of potential recruitment. Candidates can occasionally be as old as 20, but the full effect of their biological conversions may not be as effective or complete.
So that's interesting, because in some aspects, a lot of sci-fi stuff, and I'm comparing this to Spartans in Halo, they're recruited at a very young age. Very young age. They're like Oh, what was John? What age was he? He was like 8 or something like that, 8 or 9 or something when he was recruited. So in that aspect, it's a bit longer. But also, I find it interesting that you can join around 20 because there's a process of your body growing, right? And it makes me wonder what the difference is between the genetic enhancements on, someone really, really young, like 10, 11, 12, and someone at like 20. Like, surely there's a big difference there. And what happens if you fail? I mean, you might probably get us into that.
Standard trials for Space Marine recruitment often involve combat, endurance, perhaps hunting of some extremely dangerous indigenous animal, and for the few who survive the tasks set by the Astartes who are there to supervise, the rewards are beyond estimation. It's difficult to describe just how revered Space Marines are to ordinary citizens of the Imperium. While they wouldn't be directly worshipped, they are certainly individuals with godlike reverence and awe. Many humans in the Imperium will go their entire lives without ever even seeing an Astartes, and they may only arrive on an Imperial planet once in a generation. On some worlds, they are even somewhat mythical. So for a family on an Imperial world to have their son chosen for Space Marine recruitment and candidacy would be an honour beyond imagination. But from some perspectives, bittersweet, in as all likelihood they may never see them again once they have been accepted, and in very high possibility will probably die in later processes. But it's nonetheless the highest honour to serve the Emperor and the Imperium in this way.
That really sucks. So it's an honour, but you may die, and you're probably going to die, and you'll definitely never see them again. So that's kind of heartbreaking. I wonder if there's a book that's like based on just a family where something like this happens and he goes off and then maybe he comes back if he actually got the full transformation. Or like, I wonder if because there's so many books in the 40k universe, there's so many, especially the Horus Heresy, which is, it's probably not going to be included in something like that, but there's so many books. It makes me wonder if there is a book that literally goes from recruitment through training. If there's a book like that, let me know, because I love Fall of Reach right now, learning about John and how he went through training. I would love to read a book about a Space Marine that goes through training. That would be amazing. Amazing.
And would no doubt lead to adulation, even possible special treatment for families after the fact. Ordinary citizens understand that to be accepted for the conversion to the Astartes, the Emperor's chosen warriors, is nothing short of becoming a demigod. Then again, you could just as easily have been recruited from a hive world full of daily extreme violence, and your gang was just forcibly made to participate in the trials, and you were simply the only one left alive at the end. So that's your flip side of the coin. Pray you never seek acceptance to the Grey Knights. I'll cover that later.
Wait. I'm interested in the Grey Knights, so I want to know more about that lot. I'm really excited for him to talk about it, because I'm torn between the Space Wolves and the Grey Knights, and apparently they don't get along. Apparently they're not very good friends.
All the physical and mental requirements for candidacy, another element is spiritual purity. In the 41st millennium, Imperial society is heavily religious, worshipping the God Emperor, and most importantly, decrying the ruinous powers of chaos. Chaplains and the ecclesiarchy will continually monitor society around Astartes' recruitment sources to ensure that there are no signs of taint by the dark forces of chaos.
Okay. Tell me more about them Grey Knights. I'm intrigued.
With the easy part over, the selected candidates, now known as aspirants, will begin the ritual process of becoming a Space Marine. This may be a formal process of reciting scripture, or it could involve further trials. These could take place on the homeworld or result in immediate departure for the aspirant. Each chapter has their own private and guarded initiations. Some of these can be heavily traumatic and are usually significantly harder tests designed to break those who show even the smallest cracks of weakness. These trials for the young aspirants may even include ritual slaughter, scarification, even amputation and bloodletting.
Damn.
It's all designed to prove their commitment, loyalty and unwavering faith in the Astartes chapter. Unsurprisingly, some aspirants do not pass this phase of testing physically or mentally. Aspirants will continue periods of testing and examination as well as actual live combat during their period as a recruit for the Space Marine chapter.
I'm a big fan of an origin story. Like, I'm a big fan of origin stories, and that's why I'm super intrigued more. And that's why I picked this video, the creation and recruitment, because I find this part more interesting than anything else. Like, recruited to be a space marine, recruited to be an inquisitor. Like, what happened? How does that happen? That's so interesting. And the fact that he's going into like this process that each faction has their own kind of joining routine thing. They all have their own specific way of recruiting and where from. Like, I want them books. They're the books I want. So please give me recommendations down below. I'll be more than happy to read some of them.
And some of these trials may be cleverly disguised as coming-of-age rituals, other celebrations some more combat-based. All, though, will be observed carefully by senior members of the chapter and chaplains who will be assessing key traits and behaviours, looking for candidates who fulfil their exacting requirements.
Okay.
Some of these aspirants from Feral Worlds or even other worlds may not be truly aware of what Space Marines are, and this innocence may in some way protect them from making overthought errors that cost them later. Still, some chapters actually take little interest in these early stages and will only actually become involved later once aspirants have been further thinned down. The whole process is a physical and psychological minefield. Some challenges could be unachievable, while others the simple act of survival is enough to merit approval to progress to the next stage.
Okay.
All the tests put to Space Marine aspirants are designed to test every element of their being to the limit and expose any weaknesses that are present, as well as learn about how they handle and make judgments on situations they are presented with. While the recruitment age for these aspirants is undoubtedly young, it's worth remembering that the nightmare environment of the 41st millennium is undoubtedly very harsh, and so growing up and becoming an adult quickly is something which many learn to do, and so their age shouldn't necessarily dictate your judgment of them based on our current period in time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Standard Astartes trials for these young recruits can include knowledge of self. Astartes look at recruits' mental strength equally to the physical. The horrors they will face in their lives as a space marine, despite later conditioning, require the strongest character in a recruit to be successful and worthy. They may use a chapter librarian to impose psychic horrors on a recruit to see if they survive the nightmares they're forced to witness.
That's absolutely terrifying. Like, legit terrifying.
He may be forced to take drugs and face the worst parts of his own psyche. The stress and trauma of this trial can often physically affect their bodies as well, so in many ways this becomes the ultimate test for recruits. Completion of this trial will undoubtedly fundamentally alter the young recruit forever. Some chapters, like the Imperial Fists, consider this kind of mental testing especially important. But
so, from what I'm getting with this, is all the chapters do these things. But again, like you literally just said, the Imperial Fists specifically concentrate on one of them and kind of push them on that one specific thing. They still do them all, but they push them on that one thing. I wonder what the Space Wolves do.
Do so by exposing their recruits to literal physical pain, and we use devices like the subtly titled Pain Glove. These hook into the nervous system of the recruit and inflict horrific pain, but also maintain their consciousness well past what a normal individual could handle.
Wow.
The result will either be a mentally toughened but probably scarred individual, or a complete mental breakdown and death. An obvious and standard test for many recruits is exposure. Most worlds of the Imperium have unforgiving environments, and so sending out recruits into these wastes with little to survive with is an easy way to tell who is strong enough as a candidate.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Space Marine apothecaries can rebuild damaged individuals, so the test is less of can you survive without consequences, and more simply, can you survive?
Okay.
Many worlds are severely irradiated, frozen wastes, toxic wastelands, or ashen wastes, where planets have suffered total ecological collapse. Alternately, a planet could also be a literal jungle full of horrific creatures, small and large, ready to tear you to pieces or just melt your face off.
Wouldn't this be an absolutely awesome video game? Like a video game where you are a recruit going through training? Oh, I just want that so bad. It's the same with Halo. I just want a video game where you're a Spartan going through training. That's all I want.
As stated, the test is simple. Survive for a set period of time. It will also likely involve some object of crossing a distance from A to B, so as to avoid recruits just digging a hole somewhere and sitting in it until time has elapsed. Some of the tests could well be impossible to complete and are simply assessing who can survive longest or travel furthest before dying or near death. The Ultramarines and Space Wolf chapters are known to favour exposure testing.
That makes sense, because the Space Wolves do have a theme right here of ice, so exposure is important. Can we just talk about this environment in this picture right now? Ice world with volcanoes in it? Like, what's going on here, guys? What world is this? With a kraken in the background?
Death. The Ultramarines and Space Wolf chapters are known to favour exposure testing. A fairly self-explanatory trial, recruits are pitted against one another in one-on-one combat. When the last few remain, the assessing Astartes will usually halt the assessment. The type of duel could vary between armed or unarmed combat, consecutive combat, or recruits switching out on completing rounds. There is one constant though, and that is it's always a fight to the death. Again, apothecaries are able to heal most ordinary human wounds with ease, so these fights are often fairly no-holds-barred brutal affairs. Amputation and heavy trauma being the norm. Unsurprisingly, duels are the Blood Angels trial of choice, but others such as Dark Angels, Imperial Fists and Space Wolves also put this trial to their recruits. War is life in the Imperium, and although some worlds know this more than others, planets used for recruitment usually have some form of regular combat going on. This trial is less a trial and more a means of assessing potential candidates. Astartes may have observed head-hunting particularly strong champions, or they may watch them from orbit, observing infighting between tribes on Imperial Feral worlds.
That is really cool. That reminds me of a book series called Red Rising, where they have these kind of godlike people basically fight it out, and some of them form tribes. And so if you haven't read Red Rising, I highly recommend it. It's kind of mixed between this recruitment and kind of Hunger Games, but way more mature because it's brutal. But it's that kind of aspects where people get put into a world and they have to survive. Highly recommend it. And that is fascinating. I'm going to end it there because I'm going to split this up into two, and I'm pretty much exactly in the middle. So I'm going to end it there. Please give me recommendations if there is any stories on people going through the recruitment, like kind of following a character through recruitment of, you know, the Space Marines or the Space Wolves or the Imperial Fists or any of them. Let me know if there's any of them books, because the kind of coming of age books and the journey books like that, the going through the training, the origin stories, they're like a guilty pleasure of mine. They really are, and I become obsessed with them very, very quickly. It's why I love books like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, because they really are from humble beginnings all the way to like this great adventure. And even though this is way darker than Harry Potter by a long shot, it still tickles my interest. It really does. So let me know in the comments if you've got any recommendations for them, guys, okay? Members, you're amazing. I love you. I couldn't do this without you. I honestly couldn't make videos every single day if it wasn't for these members. So thank you for supporting the channel as much as you do. I truly, truly appreciate it. Links down below to all my socials, including the 2 links to Discord. We've got the military link for all things military. Join that military link if you want to get fit for the military or have quizzes about the military. Join that Discord. Second one is for all things geeky like Warhammer, SCP, D&D, Halo, Star Wars, Metro, all that good stuff. Go over to the Geek Discord. Also, a link down below to my podcast and my Twitch stream, where I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And also my second channel, Original Human Geek, where we upload stuff like D&D and some other fun stuff. And I'm doing the next D&D campaign, so go and check that out. Also, a link down below to the huge announcement, Original Adventures. I can't tell you more than the title right now. But if you want to know what Original Adventures is and what this thing is that's genuinely going to change my life, there's 2 links down below to a YouTube channel and to an Instagram. There's nothing on them right now, but go over there, like and subscribe and follow on Instagram, and get prepared for some really, really cool announcement, guys, because I'm very excited to share that with you. Until next time, guys, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.